Over the weekend, there was only one thing people were talking about: Wi-Fi. No, not that Wi-Fi. I'm talking about YFI, the governance token of yearn.finance. And why were they talking about it? Well, at a time when seemingly every DeFi project with a governance token sees, frankly, unbelievable gains. This one was probably the most jaw-dropping I've ever seen. The token went from $0 to over $2,300 at one point. Yeah.
Oh, come on!
There's an awful lot to unpack here, but you're in good hands. This is the Defiant. So this story begins with a platform called iearn, a liquidity aggregator which offered different ways for users to earn interest for supplying capital to pools supported by the platform, maximizing earnings by redirecting tokens to the best lending markets. Not only that, the UX is just nice. It's a nice platform to use, and in the world of DeFi, that's a rarity. And it was successful too, aggregating $8 million in assets under management with a historical return of just over 10% since it launched. And it was created by Andre Cronje, who's become something of a legend in blockchain as a code reviewer, as a developer, as a builder, and someone at the very bleeding edge of crypto. And when you do a little digging, you find out that Andre speaks Afrikaans, Dutch, German, English, and Latin. He's currently studying Korean and is an avid weightlifter. Yeah, this guy's a bona fide galaxy brain. So that was iearn, but then the platform rebranded to yearn, introducing new tools such as the ability to short DAI, restore its peg when it trades at a premium, liquidate ARV loans that become under-collateralized, as well as a new type of automated market maker that is yield aware and doesn't differentiate between the different flavors of the same token that might be required for yield farming. Instead, it introduces a transfer token that represents all liquidity for an asset. So all those tools are really kind of amazing, but what really got everyone hot and bothered was the introduction of the governance token YFI, or YFI, or IFI, I don't know how you pronounce it, but if you saw our last video, you'll know that governance tokens have really been the gasoline for this incredible jet-propelled surge in DeFi the last few months. But there's a stack of governance tokens now. What makes this particular one so special? So Camila, basically, I've been following this whole YFI, yearn.finance thing. I had no idea this token was going to just take off the way it did. I know that yearn.finance is a really well thought of platform, but why do you think there has been so much interest around this? What makes it interesting?
It's a little bit different from the other DeFi tokens in that the only way to earn it is to participate in the yearn.finance pools. With other tokens, investors in the platforms and the teams themselves running these projects got like a part of the tokens too. But in this case, only users of the platform and people who are depositing funds into the pools of yearn.finance are earning the token. So that means essentially that the platform is decentralized right away without having these like bigger stakeholders controlling it. And I guess like we should step back here because the reason why it's decentralized it's because these are governance tokens. So that means that token holders, people who own YFI, Wi-Fi, whatever people are calling it, people who own this token, they're able to vote in governance decisions around yearn.finance. So with them being distributed only to users, it means that the way yearn.finance is run is entirely in the hands of the community right now.
I think the thing that caught my eye was there was no pre-mine and there was no pre-sale. So I think basically the narrative around crypto and the narrative around ICOs was that somebody more privileged than yourself was getting a better deal than you and he was going to dump on you when it hit the market. And that was true, if we're honest.
Yeah.
That was actually true. And I think where a lot of people get really angry about these new projects is that they feel like what they're being told and what they're being sold isn't the whole story. But with this particular project, that is the whole story.
It is remarkable, but that's also, raises a question of when token holders are in control of the decisions of the platform, that means that they will do things that will support maybe the price of the token and not necessarily the platform itself. Because there's the argument of, how sustainable is it for a lending platform or a yield bouncer like a yearn.finance to have this capped supply? Like, what if, when it runs out, what does it do to continue incentivizing liquidity and making sure everyone in participating also gets the right to vote? So it still raises a question,
What I found interesting with Andre is that he's got this kind of legendary status. He's seen as this sort of rock star. Because he doesn't play by the rules, he does things his own way. In the Medium article, he said, in further efforts to give up this control, mostly because we're lazy and we don't want to do it, we've released YFI, whatever, IFI, a completely valueless zero supply token. We reiterate, it has zero financial value.
Yeah, so the founder or issuer or whatever says it's a valueless token, but then it goes up to $2,500. People are kind of captivated by this perceived honesty, right?
Perceived honesty.
I mean, who knows? You can't you can't be certain of the motivations behind all of this. So I mean, but yeah, it seems a lot more honest than saying, this token, this project is gonna make a better world and whatever, and have a whole all these statements about the token. It seems more honest to say this is a valueless token, like Andre did,
There's always a meme, there's always a narrative. And the prevailing narrative has been VC-backed projects raised too much money and now they're floundering on the market because they can't justify their market cap. So here you have this counter narrative, which is, a project built by someone from within the community, not greedy, and suddenly it becomes the victim of its own success. It was too honest, it was too clear. The valueless YFI grew up too fast and that created the danger of making him a live honeypot.
Yeah, so I think the issue there was that he had control over YFI by himself. He was able to single-handedly print however many YFI he wanted to. And with that power, because there were hundreds, over $100 million in YFI pools, he would have been able to drain that much money from these pools. So if he wanted to, he could have easily, run off with the money, and there was not much people, investors or traders could have done. So people were freaking out, obviously, about this yesterday, last night. But it's crazy what happened because there was kind of this community uproar about how quickly this all had blown up and the control that Andre had over this token. And then kind of the community got together and created a multi-sig contract where 6 of 9 controllers had to agree before doing anything with the token. And Andre wasn't one of the controllers. So, and this just happened within a span of less than 24 hours. So we got to this new token was issued, it blew up, $100 million poured into these pools, it shot up to over $2,000. Then people were oh no, it got too big too quickly and Andre has all of the control. And then there was this whole redoing the governance and control of the token so that now it's controlled by a group of people rather than one person. And this happened just in a day or two.
So I know what you're wondering. How does one go about farming YFI? Well, there are 3 pools you can provide liquidity to. yearn, which requires Y-curve tokens and receives YFI. Balancer, which requires YFI and DAI and receives YFI and BAL. And governance, which requires YFI and Y-curve and receives YFI, BAL, and curve tokens, CRV. Yeah, this is all a little bit complicated, but if you are savvy enough to figure it out, then I can point you in the direction of 2 good guides that helped me out in researching this film, which I'll link in the description below. So do check out Darren Lau's thread on Twitter or Weeb's well-written guide on Medium. And for the latest information on which pools are the most profitable, best place to go is yieldfarming.info. I mean, I tried to go through this and figure it out. I couldn't. Like, all the different flavors of different tokens and where I need to put them, and then, just making sure you cross the I's and dot the T's. Decentralized finance is about controlling your money and knowing where it is and what's going on with it. And yet, it's completely baffling.
Yeah, you get to these levels of complexity that even if the code is open, it's still really hard to figure out what's going on, at least for the lay person.
Well, someone who I follow, who's actually written for the Defiant, Cooper Turley, he wrote in his DeFi Ray article, he says, underpinning this whole ecosystem is an incredibly meta ecosystem of play. And while you need 1,000 IQ DeFi knowledge to get involved, those who are savvy enough are sure to reap the rewards of a strongly organized DeFi token. That idea that you need to be a galaxy brain to even attempt this, it feels upside down.
Right now, DeFi is being driven by whales, by really experienced traders, with people who've been in crypto for a while. And I think that should be the case. I think it's good that that's happening because this stuff is so risky that I don't think mainstream users should be playing with it. But I think as DeFi evolves and matures, it'll be safer and easier to understand for mainstream users.
So I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the yearn.finance platform. As I said at the start, this really is the bleeding edge of the bleeding edge of the bleeding edge of DeFi and crypto and blockchain, and it isn't for everyone. There are simpler ways to get started, and we will be creating a series of films to help you do exactly that. But till then, I've been Robin Schmidt alongside Camila Russo, and this was The Defiant.
Been a little too nice to y'all. Now I gotta up price on y'all. Snake eyes on dice for y'all. Shoulders on ice for y'all. Whoa, 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 whoa.